Adding and subtracting with negative numbers. So adding, finding the sum of two things, plussing, adding numbers together, subtracting, taking away, minus, and negative numbers. So negative numbers have a minus sign in front of them, and they are numbers that are less than 0. Now, I've got a couple of examples where we might see negative numbers. Here, I've drawn a rough diagram of a thermometer. This has got our temperatures. 0, that's our freezing point or melting point, and the numbers that are above 0, the positive numbers, these are numbers 1, 2, and 3, and so on. That would carry on. So although they're cool temperatures, they're above 0. These numbers below 0, these are the negative numbers or the minus numbers. So these ones, if the temperature was -1 or -2 or -3, it'd be very cold. It's below freezing. You would see a frost or there would be ice. Then this other picture here, this is a diving board. Okay, imagine someone that was diving, and this is the swimming pool that they're going to land into. So as they climb up the diving board, they're moving up 1 meter, 2 meters, 3 meters, and they're on the diving board. And then when they dive down, they're going at 0, that's the water level, and then as they go under the water, that's 1 meter underwater, 2 meters underwater, and 3 meters underwater. So we're going to use these with our examples for doing some calculations with negative numbers. Okay, so our first example is 3 minus 2. Imagine this was our temperature. We were on 3 degrees and it is now getting colder by 2 degrees. So I'm going to take away 2 degrees. So 3 take away 2, it's just going to move down here by 2, and that brings us to 1. And that's quite straightforward. We had 3, which is a larger number than the 2, so we had a bigger number taking away a smaller number. We still ended up with a positive number, so 3 take away 2 gave us 1. So the 3 minusing 2 left us with 1, which is a positive number. And indeed, we were minusing, so we were moving down our scale. And equally, if we are adding, we would be moving up our scale. So when we add, we move up, and when we minus, we move down, as you can see. So in this example, we're starting with 1. We'll stick with temperature. We're on 1 degree, and it's warming up. We're increasing the temperature by 1. The temperature is rising by 1. It's going up by 1. So when we're adding, we're going to go up. So we start at the 1, and we go up by 1. That brings us to 2, and we know quite well that 1 plus 1 equals 2. But of course, we want to see what happens when we've got negative numbers, and the solutions are going to end up a little bit more interesting. So let's imagine that we are on the top of our diving board. So here we are at 3 meters. Okay, so we're at 3 meters. And because it's a diving board, we're going to dive down. So we're going down. So we're going to be minusing. And we're going to dive down. We're going to dive down a total of 5 meters. Okay, so we start off at 3 meters and we're diving down 5 meters. Okay, so 1, 2, 3. That brings us to the surface of the water. That brings us to 0. And then another 2 brings us down to a total of 5 meters. So 3 take away 5. We'll just do that again just to be sure. 3 take away 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 does indeed bring us to -2. You can see we're below the surface of the water. We're in our negative number section. Okay, and then let's imagine we are here. We're at -2. So if you've just dived down and that's where you are in the pool, the next thing you do is climb up out of the pool. So you're going to move up to get out of the water. So you're on -2 and we're going to move up, so that's plussing, and we're going to have to go up 2. So -2 plus 2 brings us up to here, to the surface, up to 0. And let's think what would happen if we're at 0 on our diving board, and we're just going to dive in straight from the edge of the pool. We're not going to climb up to the diving board, we're just going to dive in from here. So 0, and we're going to dive down 1 meter. So 0 minus 1. So 0 minus 1, I mean we're just diving down that little bit, so we're going to end up on -1. And now let's think, we're on -1, but we're going to climb all the way up to the top of the diving board. So I'm going to have to move up 4 meters. So I'm on -1 and I'm going to climb up 4 meters. So let's see what happens. I'm on -1 and I'm going to swim up first of all to get here up to the top of the water and then climb up these stairs to get up to the diving board. So I'm on -1, climbing up 4. So -1, 1, 2, 3, 4. So that brings me to a positive 3. It brings me to the 3. I'm going to do one more example. I'm going to go back to our temperature scale. Let's look at an example. Imagine the temperature is -1. So we're already below 0, we're on -1, and the temperature gets colder. It gets colder by another 2 degrees. So we've got -1 and we're taking away 2 degrees because it has got colder still. So we were on -1 and we're taking away 2. So we're going to move down. So we're moving down by 2. So 1, 2. That brings us down to -3. So -1 taking away another 2 brings us down to -3. Of course, we had our number lines moving up and down with our examples of the height of the water or the depth of the water and the temperature. If you were considering a more traditional number line, we might have our numbers written horizontally like this. So we've got our 0 in the middle, and as we move to the right, we are seeing the positive numbers, and as we move to the left, we are seeing the negative numbers. And just as before, we can see the direction that we need to travel. When we are adding a number, we're going to be moving to the right, and when we are taking away or subtracting, we are going to be moving to the left. Here's our 0 in the middle, so we always think where we are in relation to our 0, but then when we're adding, we're going to be moving this way, and subtracting, we're going to be moving that way. So if I had an example where I wanted to do 3 subtract 7, I'm going to think of my number line. So here's my 0, but I'm starting on 3, so I'm going to move up to this 3. So 3 taking away 7. Well, I could count back 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That would bring me to -4 because, of course, we are subtracting, so we're moving in this direction. So I started here and I moved back 7, which got me to the -4. I could think of it as well, I've got this 3. To get back to 0, because I know I'm moving this direction, that's using up 3, so that's taking away 3, but I need to take away a total of 7, so I've got to take away another 4. You see that -3 here, and then minusing another 4 gets me the equivalent of subtracting 7 in one go. So that's why I end up on my -4. And one last point to mention when you're dealing with negative numbers. If you had a calculation that looked something like 5 subtract -4, and you were to find out what the answer was, when you've got two subtraction signs next to each other, they actually become a positive. So 5 take away a -4 is exactly the same as saying 5 plus 4, which is equal to 9. So the golden rules that we need to remember: think about a number line, or even draw the number line. Know where 0 is. Positive numbers will move to the right, or they'll move up if you're looking at a vertical scale. Negatives, or when you're taking away, they will start counting to the left or down if you're on a vertical scale. And finally, subtracting a negative becomes a plus. If you've got two minus signs next to each other, when you're adding and subtracting, it ends up as adding.